The question is that the motion be agreed to. Councillor Cipollone.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, we've given this much consideration, and as most people in the House would know, that when it comes to members' bills, we are actually quite fair-minded and usually are quite open to the idea of a bill going to select committee so that some consideration can be given to it. But actually, Mr Speaker, after going over this and having some discussions with colleagues like Calvin Davis and other colleagues, Mr Speaker, we've decided actually this bill is a waste of time and does not deserve the attention of the Social Services Select Committee, so we will not be supporting this to Select Committee, Mr Speaker. And Mr Speaker, firstly, the reason that this doesn't deserve the time of the Social Services Select Committee is that actually we've got a lot of other major issues that need to be considered at that Select Committee. We've got 305,000 kids living in poverty in this country. We've got a major housing problem on our hands, Mr Speaker. We've got a complete overhaul of SIFs that's going through the Select Committee at the moment, and that member brings us a bill that will address a handful of people that may have issues and he's trying to use the stick on, when in fact the real implications of what that member is offering up is just further stigmatisation of beneficiaries and absolute waste of time of the Select Committee, Mr Speaker. So we're not going to support this bill. Mr Speaker, if this issue was of significance to the government, then we wouldn't be seeing it brought here by Mark Mitchell. We would have seen the Minister of Corrections or the Minister of Social Development taking it through as a government bill, not having it presented here through Mark Mitchell. And I do wonder with the members over there, the backbench members, what they think. You know, they're sitting there, they've got time on their hands, and they get the opportunity to put a bill in the ballot and to make real change in the lives of New Zealanders. And then this guy, Mark Mitchell, is like, I'm going to put in a bill that is stopping benefit payments for offenders who repeatedly fail to comply with community sentences, which really, Mr Speaker, implies that this is a major issue, but we know that actually it's not. That's right. And someone should tell Mark Mitchell that actually the vast majority of beneficiaries are not criminals. They are not going through the criminal justice system. This is not a big issue, Mr Mitchell, and so I'm sorry that someone's given you the impression that it is, and that you took the time to draft this meaningless bill and bring it to the House. But as I said, we will not be supporting this bill to Select Committee, and I do hope that other political parties in the House have the same level of common sense and won't be supporting this bill as well. It is really worrying, Mr Speaker, that we see the lines blurred so often by the national government. Here we have an issue around corrections. We know they have a problem with corrections. They've really struggled to look after that portfolio, and so their only way of trying to address that is to do it through the social development system. So you can't look after the corrections portfolio. We know the national government have failed on that front, and so they're like, okay, what do we do? How do we fix this? Okay, we punish people through the social development portfolio, and that will fix everything. Well, actually it won't, Mr Speaker, and as I said, this is such a minute issue that it's embarrassing that we're even having a debate on it in the House tonight. Mr Speaker, there are other major considerations that we should have a conversation about in the debate, and one of those is one that many NGOs, social services, children's advocacy groups have brought up, and that is with regards to the sanctions that have been imposed in lots of different other areas and the implications that those sanctions have on children. And it's really unfortunate that the whole time the national government has been pushing their reforms, implementing these types of sanctions, that they have never stood back at any time to actually monitor the implications on of those sanctions on those children, Mr Speaker, and that's concerning. And here they are looking to roll out another raft of sanctions in an area that is completely unrelated to social development, Mr Speaker, and undermines what our social security system was set up for in the first place. So, Mr Speaker, I'm not going to give this any more attention. I'm not even going to let I'm not even going to let my speech get to the bell of 8 minutes because actually, Mr Speaker, this bill doesn't deserve further consideration and should not be allowed to continue to Select Committee, and I do hope that the next bill Mark Mitchell puts in has a little bit more substance and is a little bit more meaningful to New Zealanders than what we have before us tonight.
Mr Speaker.
I call Alfred
Mr Speaker, I rise to seek a call on this bill, and I want to acknowledge my good friend and colleague Mark Mitchell, who this bill is in. It's the Social Security Stopping Benefit Payments for Offenders Who Repeatedly Fail to Comply with Community Senators Amendment Bill, under the name of the member, the National MP Mark Mitchell for Rodney. And Mr Speaker, there were some very unkind comments that were made about the sincerity and the intent of Mr Mark Mitchell in regards to this bill. But Mr Speaker, we know that his past history is that he's been involved in the police as a previous dog handler, and though Mr Mark Mitchell did actually make comment and